I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak to you guys today. So my name's Matt Robinson. I'm a solution engineer with ESRI. I've been with the company for about 9 months now, so I'm still pretty new to the company. I work specifically with state agencies in Illinois. Thank you. Before I came to ESRI, I actually worked for the Michigan Department of Transportation for about 6 years. And I was doing all sorts of GIS stuff over there, so database management. I actually set up Arcgis Online as well, so we were using a lot of the same products that you guys have been talking about today. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about Arcgis Online. It seems like a lot of the agencies are already taking advantage of this technology. So I want to talk a little bit more specifically about how it can be used at more of an enterprise or statewide level to help collaborate between state agencies. So I'm going to talk a little bit about ArcGIS and Arcgis Online. A lot of this might be review for you, but hopefully you'll be able to pick out a few things that'll be helpful. Okay. Didn't know I was such a good joke teller, but thank you for that. I'm going to cover what's included with ArcGIS Online, so you have an idea of everything that you can do with the software. And then I'm going to get into collaboration and talk about how you can start collaborating between state agencies using the technology. And then I'll touch on an initiative that's been started to establish a statewide ArcGIS Online organization to help collaborate across agencies. And then working with other states in my current position, I've picked out a couple of use cases to kind of show you what other agencies have been doing with the technology to collaborate. So at ESRI, we like to say that the Arcgis Platform, it enables every agency to provide spatial data to their employees, to their contractors, so that they can use spatial data no matter where they are on any device that they have. And we do this in a few different ways. So the Arcgis Platform provides what we call 3 different systems. And these systems all work together to give you the functionality you need to meet your business needs. So the first system, we call the system of record. So that's going to be your authoritative GIS data. The data that you collect out in the field, that you manage in the office. It's the data that you're going to use to ask the question to solve your business problem. And the platform also provides what we call a system of insight. And so that's going to be taking a look at how to analyze that system of record data to come up with an answer to your business problem. And then finally, we provide a system of engagement. So how do you get that data, that insight that you've gained through your analysis out to decision makers and to the public? So the Arcgis Platform and Arcgis Online provides all of these capabilities. And over time, we've seen a transformation of how GIS is being implemented and used in agencies. So traditionally, we started with desktop client software. So you had the software installed on your machine, you use data locally stored. And then we moved from there to a server-based architecture. So you're interacting with centralized data, with centralized services on the server environment. And then as technology has changed very rapidly in the past decade, we've seen a move towards what we call web GIS, so a service-based GIS environment where you can access your data and information from a browser or a device. And we're seeing a lot of state agencies moving into this space who've traditionally been server GIS shops have started to embrace this web GIS, and it sounds like that's the case here in Illinois as well. And moving beyond just a web GIS infrastructure, we're starting to see what we call distributed GIS. So creating a system of GIS across a state or even a nation. So collaborating between different agencies and organizations. We're starting to see a lot more of that. And the concept of web GIS is that we want to support everyone within an organization. So traditionally, we have our professional GIS users who create and curate the content, but we're moving towards more of an ecosystem where knowledge workers, so maintenance folks out in the field, data scientists, managers, and decision makers can access this information and make actionable decisions on it. And a lot of our workforce and the public are becoming increasingly mobile, so having access to information on a mobile platform is also very important. And so we can enable this WebGIS in a couple of different ways. We can do it through Arcgis Online, which I think a lot of you are familiar with. It's our ESRI software as a service offering. We also have what we call Portal for ArcGIS, which is our internal kind of Arcgis Online environment that you can host behind your firewalls using your own infrastructure. And usually we see agencies and state government taking advantage of a hybrid approach, using Arcgis Online for a lot of public engagement and sharing of data, and then Portal for ArcGIS for a lot of their internal, more secure data that they don't necessarily want to share with the public. And so the focus today, I'm going to dive a little bit more into Arcgis Online, which is delivered as a software as a service by ESRI. So it's all the servers are managed by us in the cloud. So it's not something you have to worry about managing. It can be scaled up or scaled down as the need arises. So what's included? You get a complete mapping and visualization platform that gives you the capabilities shown here, and I'll dive into those a little deeper. But its main goal is to connect people. And increasingly now that we're seeing connecting organizations together. So we want to create an environment where data can be shared and used by multiple folks, and the data is only created once. You don't have to store copies of it on different machines. And as Arcgis Online's kind of rolled out over the past 6, 7, 8 years, we see agencies using it in a variety of different ways, and some of the common ways we see agencies use it are over on the right-hand side. So location enablement, taking your data, which may have only traditionally been stored in tables, and mapping it, visualizing it and seeing it on a map. Constituent engagement and decision support, so sharing your data and information products with other people in your organization that actually make decisions. Data editing, both in the office and in the field. So all of this is capable using Arcgis Online. And then analysis as well, and I'm going to dive into each of these in more detail to talk about what you get with Arcgis Online. Actually, see if I can close this so you can see everything. Okay. So the primary use of Arcgis Online is visualization. So taking your data and visualizing it on a map. Arcgis Online allows you to, in a browser-based environment, load in shapefiles, file geodatabases, tables, or if you have GIS already set up in your agency, you can take advantage of services that may be available through Arcgis Server that may have already been set up. It allows you to take this data and visualize it on a map so you can start to see spatial patterns that you can't normally see if you're just looking at a straight table. Content is also a big component of Arcgis Online. So at ESRI, we have something called the Living Atlas. How many people here have heard of the Living Atlas? Okay, that's usually what I'll get. About a quarter of the people are familiar with it. It's a set of curated, authoritative data that ESRI provides to its Arcgis Online users. We have over 1 million different data layers coming in through the Living Atlas that you can stream into your maps and your web mapping applications. So this includes national data sets like live stream gauges. My presentation this morning was talking about stream gauges, Ron from the DNR. You can stream in live those locations. The USGS has a feature service that you can stream in. You can stream in live hurricane data. So we actually had a lot of the states down in the southeast part of the country during the hurricanes a couple months ago, streaming in live weather information and hurricane paths for their applications as well. And you can stream in other things like LiDAR. So the Living Atlas has a very wide variety of content that you have access to through Arcgis Online. We also have our base maps. You're probably familiar with these. So they're background context for your authoritative data. You can provide additional reference material when you're out in the field or in the office looking at data. We have your typical streets and imagery, topographic base maps. But we also have some new kind of stylized base maps that are a little more nice to look at if you're creating a nice polished product for the public. And so those have been being released recently. The thing I like talking the most about when it comes to the Living Atlas that a lot of people don't take advantage of is that the Living Atlas contains over 7,000 census variables that have been put in a spatial context, so you can enrich your data, your authoritative data, with census variables. So if you're interested in population, percent of an area that might be below the poverty line, who has access to vehicles, anything that the census makes available is available to enrich your data using ArcGIS Online. So I encourage you to take advantage of that if you're interested in learning a little bit more about your constituents or the public, or if you're trying to do analysis based on folks that may be living in the areas that you serve. Also included in ArcGIS Online are a lot of web-based analysis tools. So we've chosen a lot of the more commonly used tools from our desktop applications and made them available in ArcGIS Online. So doing hotspot analysis, finding those hotspots in your data. If you're doing a suitability analysis to find the best location to, let's say, put a new, I wouldn't put a new store, but you guys aren't the commercial business. But if you're trying to find a suitable location for spraying for weeds, or if someone applies for a permit, let's say a DOT is a good example, you want to drill down into that permit location and see, does it hit an endangered species or a threatened species? So there's some suitability analysis tools in ArcGIS Online that are available. There's also a lot of routing tools. So if you have inspectors that need to do a certain amount of work throughout the day, there are some tools to route them to all their locations in the most efficient way. So there's a lot of web-based analysis tools that you can take advantage of without having to know very much about GIS. The most commonly used piece of ArcGIS Online, which you probably got a hint of through all the presentations today, are our field applications. So most agencies that are using ArcGIS Online are taking advantage of this very heavily. So we have field-based apps that come included with ArcGIS Online. Explorer for ArcGIS is a view-only application, so you can make your data available in a mobile application for viewing. Workforce for ArcGIS, I didn't see any presentations today on it. Is anyone taking advantage of Workforce? Well, I think State Police might have mentioned it earlier this morning. But it's a way to create work orders for your field workers and then make that work viewable in a mobile application, and it can help them navigate to their locations and do their work and report back on the status. And then what we saw the most of today, a lot of collector and survey 123 application for collecting data, so adding to your authoritative content. And all these apps are included with ArcGIS Online at no additional cost. Also included are a lot of what we call apps for the office and for the community. So apps that you can use on your desktop if you're sitting in the office, still in a web browser, so you don't need to install any software for this. Operations Dashboard is a good kind of add-on if you're doing field work and taking advantage of Collector or any of the field-based apps. It's a way to have a common operating picture and a summary of what's happening out in the field. So how many areas have I sprayed? How many culverts have I collected? Seeing that summary information on both a map and also summary charts and templates is helpful. We also have an add-in for the Microsoft products. It's called ArcGIS Maps for Office. So if you have folks that are traditional Microsoft users, they're used to using Excel or PowerPoint, we have add-ins that allow you to create a map within your spreadsheet and then also to spatially enable your PowerPoints. So giving you some added functionality in products that you already use every day. We're seeing a lot of use of ESRI story maps. Has anyone taken advantage of story maps before? Okay, good. That's a lot more than I normally see. So it's a web-based configurable app that allows you to create essentially, it's almost like a website, but it creates this narrative around your data and your map, so you can tell a story to the public instead of just showing them a map. You're also telling them, how did you get to this point in your analysis, and what does it mean to them? And you can add photos and images and videos along with text to your maps to give them more context. We also have a component called Arcgis Open Data, which is a platform that allows you to take data that you've added to Arcgis Online and make it easily available for the public to access and download. So there's a lot of movement in state agencies to provide more transparency in data, and a lot of states are taking advantage of this open data platform to do that. And we saw a few examples today of configurable web mapping application templates. They're very popular because you don't need to know any programming to be able to create a very polished looking web mapping application in a browser. So we see a lot of state agencies taking advantage of that. One of the other things that's included with Arcgis Online that we don't really publicize enough are what we call our solutions. So these are a set of, I think we're upwards of probably over 300 different solutions that our solutions team has created. And what our team does is they work with state agencies, local agencies, commercial sector, private sector, to see how they're using ArcGIS, see how they're using our applications, how they're using Arcgis Online. And they create these what we call templates. So they're basically shells that help state agencies do their work better. So let's say we have a DNR or a DOT that has a similar workflow. So they have to meet federal requirements. Trying to think of a good example. Let's do like environmental screening. So if you have someone applying for a permit or a new construction project, you have to go through a NEPA review or environmental review. So every agency across the country has to do some sort of environmental review for a lot of these permit applications. So our solutions teams built this template that you can load your agency data into, and it provides these tools for your staff to interact with the data and do this environmental screening automatically. And so these templates are free, they're downloadable, and they're open source. And you can find them on solutions.arcgis.com. I should have put a link up there for you. And they're fully supported. So as our versions move through time, these also get updated automatically. So you can call support, you can get your questions answered. And it's a great way to take advantage of these solutions without having to build them yourselves, especially for really common workflows that a lot of agencies have. So if you do go to solutions.arcgis.com, you can click on state government. If you're interested in taking a look at them, and they're grouped by domain, so Secretary of State, Transportation, Economic Development. You can see some of the other ones here. And each of these buckets has a good amount of solutions available in it to help with a lot of the common business workflows that agencies see. Probably one of the most commonly used is our emergency management solution set to help respond and prepare for emergencies. There are a lot of solutions there to help with that. So one of the things that agencies are starting to do a lot more of is collaboration, and I wanted to touch on how Arcgis Online can help do that. So traditionally, we see agencies in this sort of environment. So everyone has their own data sets, their own applications that they do locally on their machines. And through Arcgis Online and WebGIS, we're seeing a move towards this. So you're sharing data in Arcgis Online between staff within your organization. And there are a couple different ways to enable that. But we eventually want to move towards an environment where you're sharing data between organizations, because there could be data that the DOT has that's very important to emergency management, or that public health is also important to emergency management. So sharing that data across organizations is a really great way to not have to duplicate that data in the various agencies that may need it. It's providing access to the authoritative, most up-to-date content through Arcgis Online. And so we can do this in a few different ways, and I wanted to outline a couple of different ways that this could be done to give you an idea. One of the ways is through group sharing. So in Arcgis Online, if you're familiar with the concept of groups, you can create these kind of subset of users within your organization that you can share content with privately. So you can upload, let's say you have a workflow to collect culverts throughout the state, and you only have 10 or 15 people that need to be able to see it and edit it. You can create a group, add those folks from your organization to that group, and only they are able to do that editing and viewing of the data. So that's one way to share content within your organization. When we start talking about sharing data between organizations, so let's say IEMA, state police, DNR, DOT, they all already have their own Arcgis Online organization. How do we get data to be shared between them? So one of the ways you can do that is by inviting existing users from other organizations into your own organization's group. So that's a functionality that's completely supported. So if the DOT wanted to invite someone from emergency management into a group that had all the data that they may need to access during an emergency, like road closures, anything else that might be important, they can invite a member from a different organization in to access and view that data. And that happens all securely. It doesn't have to be publicly available in order to do that. One of the newer functions in ArcGIS Online, it's called distributed collaboration. And it's a functionality that was built in because a lot of organizations wanted to start collaborating more. And it's a setting in your administrator settings in your organization where you can establish a trusted relationship with another organization and choose a group of content that your agency wants to make available to another agency. And it's shared with the agency and kept up to date through the system. So you don't have to worry about doing any copying or linking on your own part. It happens all in the back end, but provides access to that authoritative content. So I'm relatively new to ESRI, so this actually started before I came here. So I got a brief overview of it before I came. But the state of Illinois has set up a statewide Arcgis Online organization. And it was really started out of the GIS steering group within the state to be able to establish a GIS infrastructure that was more shared across the agencies. And so this Arcgis Online organization was sponsored by the DOT. And so it's administered by the DOT, and you can get access to it by contacting the DOT. But what it's meant to do is establish that infrastructure, so a statewide infrastructure for sharing information. And we want to extend GIS capabilities not only to agencies that already have ArcGIS Online, but some agencies don't have a lot of GIS staff, they don't have a lot of resources, but they have very high value data that could be important to other agencies. So it's providing them a platform to get their data out there and shared as well. So as I said, we want to build on existing infrastructure. So some agencies may already have their own data and information that they're creating. So what we want to do is use that shared ArcGIS Online organization to create that collaboration. So sharing content between agencies that already have ArcGIS Online set up. And what that'll allow you to do is be able to access the most current and up-to-date data that agencies are sharing. So it's not like emailing someone at the DNR asking them for a shapefile or a geodatabase, and as soon as they click send, it's out of date. It's being able to connect and collaborate between organizations so you're accessing that information live. And it's also about providing GIS capabilities to those agencies that don't have it. So in the cases where we have state agencies that already have ArcGIS Online, you can have your username get invited to the central ArcGIS Online organization, so you don't have to remember 2 different usernames because no one wants to remember another password. So they can take advantage of the organization they already have, but for some of the smaller agencies or agencies with limited GIS resources, they can be given a login to this system so that they can start publishing their own data or sharing it for other agencies to take advantage of. And in the end, the goal we want to get to is to be able to make better decisions, not just at an agency level, but if we're sharing data between state agencies, you can make better decisions statewide. So this is what the Arcgis Online organization for the state looks like currently. So you can see there's already some data and information that's been shared out from a few different agencies. You have state police, transportation, natural resources. And this is just a gallery of some additional information that's been loaded in that can be referenced and used by state agencies. So a lot of potential here to be able to have a shared environment for agencies to take advantage of. So some of the use cases in collaboration using ArcGIS Online that I've seen. So I work with not only state of Illinois, but also state of Wisconsin, state of Minnesota, and state of Michigan state agencies. So I've been able to see a lot of different use cases for collaboration using ArcGIS Online. I'll use Michigan and the DOT because that's where I came from as an example. So they're using the Open Data platform in ArcGIS Online to collaborate. So the DOT has an open data site. So this is available to the public. They can download spatial data. The DNR has an open data site. And the state of Michigan as a whole has an open data site. So you may think it's overkill to have so many open data sites. But what they did in the background is through their ArcGIS Online organizations, they each created a group to store their open data. And each of those groups are shared with the other agencies. So if the public somehow got to the DOT's open data site and they searched for DNR trails, they'd still be able to see DNR trails through that search. So each of their open data sites are linked together through collaboration. So it doesn't matter what site you're going to, you're accessing the same statewide data. Another example from Michigan. So this collaboration happened between the DOT and the DNR in the state of Michigan. They had a federal requirement where the DNR needed to inspect all of their boat launch locations throughout the state and provide a cost estimate for how much money it would take to get them up to a good condition, because a lot of them were deteriorating fast. So because the DOT is really good at rating gravel and paved roads, a lot of the boat launches have gravel and paved surfaces. They partnered with the DOT to actually do the rating of each of these sites. So the DNR had the boat launch information, point file, and so they created a group in ArcGIS Online and invited DOT members from their organization into that group. And they were able to access that data in Collector and edit and view it out in the field. So they're out in the field live collecting on DNR's data. And then they were able to link it up to an operations dashboard, which was also shared with both agencies. So executives and managers, both in DNR and DOT, are able to see status of that collection as it was happening out in the field. And I had to pick something outside of Michigan just to show you I don't have favoritism. So responding to an emergency, this is Wisconsin Emergency Management Agency. They actually used one of our solution templates that I talked about earlier for damage assessment. So deployed a solution really quickly that already had all of the kind of schema in the background to collect damage assessment. And they offered it up to all the emergency managers within the state. So if counties within the state of Wisconsin already had ArcGIS Online organizations, she invited them into the group. But if they didn't, if they don't have a GIS shop, then she gave them a username for the duration of the emergency. And so you had a statewide effort collecting damage assessment in a standardized way and allow them to apply for FEMA funding a lot quicker because they knew the extent of the damage. So some of the resources for ArcGIS Online you can take advantage of. Our training site is a really good first step, so esri.com/training. I don't know if a lot of you are aware, but a couple of years ago, we opened up the majority of our training classes for free if you have a license of our software. So a lot of the classes that used to cost $30 or $100 are now free to folks that pay maintenance on our software. So there's a lot more opportunity here to take advantage of. And one of the things we recently released are what we call learning plans. And it's really a way to curate training based on a specific product you're interested in. So instead of just going to the training site and trying to look through hundreds of different offerings to see what fits. You can now go to a learning plan, and if you're just interested in ArcGIS Online or, let's say, ArcGIS Pro, we have these learning plans that are curated 10, 15 lessons all in one place for you to access and kind of run through. We also have a lot of resources available on YouTube, so if you're not able to go out to California for our big user conference every year, I know a lot of state agencies don't send a lot of folks out there. A lot of the technical sessions, actually the majority of the technical sessions that we present at that conference, we post to YouTube. So if you're interested in learning more about any of our products and what their new functionality is, YouTube is a great place for that. We actually have a channel specifically for the user conference where you can watch a lot of these. And we also have a lot of quick how-to videos that our product team puts together on just doing specific tasks within any of our products. This is another resource that I don't think a lot of folks take advantage of. It's actually a resource I've used to learn a few of our products really quickly. So ArcGIS Pro is a good example for this, but we have specific guided lessons for our different products, and they're using real-world scenarios. So it's not just running you through a webinar where you're watching someone click through the product. It's curated content for a variety of our products, including ArcGIS Online, that runs you through a scenario of loading data, creating data, doing analysis on the data. So you're using all the different pieces of the software with these lessons. And you can get that at learnarcgis.com. We also have a really active products team and ESRI community. So I don't know how many of you have accessed our GeoNet site. It's a really great place to ask questions, to learn about what's happening in our products. And our products team, so ArcGIS Online has a team that develops that. Our desktop products have a team that develops that. They're very active online, so our blog sites and our GeoNet community, they actively post about new functionality, they answer customer questions, and provide information about what's coming next in a lot of the products. And it's a great way to kind of get a sneak peek about what's coming. And I think most important, it's not just about software and services, but it's about actually real people that can help you out, because sometimes it's nice to just pick up the phone and ask a question instead of spending a couple hours searching online. So I wanted to point out that for State of Illinois agencies, ESRI has a dedicated account team that can help you out. So Mark Alexander is your account manager. He's based out of our Minneapolis office. And so he handles a lot of the licensing, quotes, that kind of stuff. And I'm the solution engineer out of the Chicago office for Illinois state agencies, so I'm more on the technical side of our products. So if you have questions about what do our products do, need a demonstration about what the functionality is. I also work to help agencies set up proof of concept. So if they just want to test out something and see what benefits they can get out of it, I can help work with you to set that up. And then I also wanted to throw in Jim's name, and I had to call him out because he left before this presentation because he knew I was going to say his name. But if you want to learn more about the statewide ArcGIS Online site for the state of Illinois, he can provide you with a login and more information about kind of what the intent is behind that. So definitely take him up on that offer to start collaborating between agencies. Let's see. That's all I have. I'll leave this slide up. And I'll take any questions that anyone might have. Sure. Got one up front.
Something you didn't really touch on, but I'm aware of ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if there's any functionality or if any effort is being made to be able to read a SharePoint list to ArcGIS Online as tabular data.
So I haven't heard anything from our product team on that. It's really a plugin for SharePoint that allows you to access your kind of content and files. But I haven't heard about any integration with ArcGIS Online directly. It's a good question.
It would be great.
Thank you for the suggestion. Another resource I didn't point out that I usually point a lot of users to is called ideas.arcgis.com. And so a lot of times when we release a new product for the first time, it doesn't have all the functionality, or users start using it and they want other functionality included. So our ideas site is a great way for users to submit ideas for new functionality, and they can actually be upvoted by our user community. And then depending on how many votes they get, our product team actually takes those initiatives or ideas and implements them into the product. So we've been using that a lot with ArcGIS Pro, since it's a relatively new desktop application. So we're taking our user community feedback and actually adding that functionality into Pro as it's coming in.
I was just curious about the Illinois State, the Arcgis Online account. We have one for IDOT, but I wasn't aware of that other one. Is it Jim that we contact to become a member, part of that one too?
Correct. So Jim told me to let you all know that you can call him and email him whenever you want. But he is the administrator of that account. And I did talk to him last week, and it's currently being used, so users are given specific logins to that site. But I talked to him a little bit more about the collaboration that I talked to you all today about. And it is possible to add your existing usernames to agencies that have organizations, so you don't have to remember 2 logins. So, yep, you can contact him, and he can do it either way.
You talked about sharing your data as open data. Can you elaborate a little more on that from an admin standpoint?
So if you're an administrator in your ArcGIS Online organization, or a specific role can be set up for someone else within an organization to do this, you create a group within your organization, and then any data you want to make publicly available through our open data site, you share with that group. And then that group has actually a setting in it called Make Available with Open Data. And so it's just a little checkbox. And that checkbox makes it available in our open data site configuration. And so if you're administering your ArcGIS Online site and you go to your settings, there's an open data kind of platform that you can enable, and it opens up a configurable website application where you can build a website using kind of drag and drop components for a website. You don't have to know HTML coding to build the website. And then depending on what components you drag in, the items in that group that you created for open data are then automatically just fed into that site, and users can then download it as a shapefile, as a geodatabase, a spreadsheet, or access the API directly if they want to use it in their own applications.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you. Thanks.